So, I rewatched the 5th season of Sex and the City, knowing it is universally considered to be the weakest one, and I actually loved it very much. I mean, don't get me wrong, this season is a bit odd. For starters, it's very short. It only has 8 episodes instead of the usual 18, which was largely due to Sarah Jessica Parker's pregnancy. And because of its unusually short length, this season feels very transitional. It's like all the characters are in a state of being in between. After Samantha breaks up with Richard, none of the ladies are in relationships for the first time since season 1, but this time around being single isn't that fun for them. They get bitter and cynical about it. But at the same time, in this season we finally meet Harry Goldenblatt. Stanford has a cute boyfriend. There are so many fun cameos, new locations, and hilarious lines.
I am having a midlife thing, you know.
We all judge. That's our hobby. Some people do arts and crafts. We judge.
That better be brand new.
Everything, including fashion, is so over the top and I love it. And so, since it's been a while since my last Sex and the City season review, I decided, as a little treat, to review each episode rather than just focus on the characters' journeys. So let's get into it! Anchors Away is a fantastic season opener. It's Fleet Week in New York, hot sailors are all over the city, including young James Holt, that's soon to be one of the hottest new fashion designers, and receiver of the infamous Miranda Priestley's lip purse. Sorry, I had to, don't hate me. But who's excited for the sequel to The Devil Wears Prada? I have mixed feelings. Anyway, so this guy's name is Leroy from Louisiana. He walked so Louise from St. Louis could run. He invites Carrie and the ladies to Fleet Week party, and Carrie is the most 13 going on 30, quirky, childlike self she has ever been on this show. In one scene, she's like dressed in a rainbow skirt and shrieks at rain like a little girl, making me think it was definitely intentional. If you've watched any of my previous Sex and the City reviews, you know I love Miss Carrie Bradshaw. I love her equally when she makes poor life decisions and when she says relatable things, because in my opinion that makes her a complex character. I also think many people secretly see themselves in her character, especially things they pretty much hate about themselves, and that's why the Carrie slander is so widespread online. That said, her character in this particular episode is a lot. And so my theory is that when the 5th season of Sex and the City was being developed, someone from HBO came to Michael Patrick King and requested, or maybe even demanded, he write Carrie so that she would be more relatable to the rapidly growing teenage audience of the show. But there were no teens nor tweens in the writer's room, and that's why in this season we have plots like Carrie obsessing over a pimple, being extremely bratty, like, you know, a teenager, or this one.
I love the way the rain smells. If this were a French movie, we'd fall in love and get married.
Now, I know that you clicked on this video for some light and fun commentary, so I'm very sorry to randomly remind you about the September 11th attacks. But this was the first Sex and the City season shot post 9/11, and you can definitely feel that in this episode. This whole beat of Carrie saying she's dating the city of New York is her boyfriend, and her one great love, this big party for the American Navy, it all is meant to be a love letter to New York. And basically we get this ultimate reality where everything is overly glamorous, all the sailors are exceptionally sexy, and everyone is dancing and having a great time like nothing happened, which I find incredibly bittersweet. The other great thing about this episode is the introduction of this season's conflict between the ladies. In the 3rd season, there was quite a lot of tension between Charlotte and Samantha over sexuality and promiscuity. And then in the 4th season, Charlotte had a baby fever and found out she was infertile, while Miranda accidentally got pregnant, which led to them having an argument. And now it's Samantha versus Miranda. So Samantha struggles to accept that Miranda had a baby and that their friend group will never be the same. basically. She's annoyed with pretty much any baby talk. She's so quick to simply get rid of Miranda, like in that scene when she was so eager to put her in a cab. And Miranda feels that none of her friends, but especially Samantha, understand her struggles as a single mother and provide enough emotional support. I'm going to be honest with you. This is my least favorite episode of the entire season, even though this episode's theme, which is faith, is so phenomenally executed through all the characters. Miranda and Steve are christening baby Brady. Charlotte takes affirmation seminars and struggles to have faith that she'll ever find another love after Trey. Carrie has to write an introduction to her book and decide whether she's hopeful or pessimistic about love. And Samantha has to believe that Richard won't eat another woman's sushi. There are also a couple of good lines, especially in the brunch scene.
I feel pissed off. Ta-da!
Carrie standing up for Charlotte and then dedicating the book to her is lovely. Molly Shannon and Amy Sedaris have great cameos. Like, on paper, An Original Sin sounds like a really, really good episode. But in reality, something about its off-kilter tone makes it almost too realistic and sometimes even uncomfortable to watch. Like, I'm thinking about that scene when Miranda meets Steve's mom. Mary Brady comes across as someone who's a bit too unhinged. And if her introduction was supposed to be a funny scene, I am very sorry, but someone really missed the mark, because it's not. It's actually pretty depressing. But also imagine being with someone for 3 years and never being introduced to their parents. It's kind of a red flag, right? Especially when Steve's mom lives in the same city as he and Miranda, and Steve must have met Miranda's family during the funeral in Philadelphia. Think about that. Luck to Be an Old Lady is another great episode because it shows a big shift in the core ladies' friendship. Basically, Carrie realizes that they're drifting away from each other and their priorities in life are becoming very different. So different, in fact, that they struggle to find time for a weekend trip to Atlantic City to celebrate Charlotte's birthday and then actually to spend this trip together. And it's so well written because all of them have valid reasons to behave the way they do. Miranda just became a mother, which is obviously very challenging, and up until this point in the show, none of the ladies have offered her any help. In the previous episode, we saw Carrie shop with her for a christening gown, but that's because Miranda asked her. None of the ladies have even given Miranda a voucher for a massage or something, and so for her, a weekend trip without a baby is a chance to focus on herself. For once, read her favorite magazines, rest, make up for lost sleep, which is very understandable. Equally understandable is Charlotte's behavior. At this point in the show, her main focus in life is to move on from being Mrs. Trey MacDougal and find new love. But she won't find anyone without even trying to put herself out there and actually talk to possible candidates. Plus, she's anxious about getting older and about her appearance, so she wants to, take advantage of being in a city where nobody knows her, dress differently than usual, flirt with cute guys, and have a good time. And by the way, she ate in that dress. Then Samantha is obsessed with spying on Richard. Since they got back together, she's been constantly testing him. She can't really move on from him cheating on her. She doesn't trust him, which is very much giving Aidan's behavior in the 4th season. And actually, I love it when in the next episode, Samantha tells Carrie,
Ever since that fucking Richard, I don't even know who I am anymore.
because, yeah, she really is losing her sense of self because of her obsession with controlling Richard. Her running up the staircase in stilettos with manic facial expressions is hilarious, but it's also a very different look from her usual confidence and self-assurance. Ultimately, she recognizes how destructive this relationship it is for her well-being and decides to break up with Richard. And Carrie just wants all of them to spend time together. like they used to. To be fair, was Carrie the one who previously moved her friends away for a guy? Yes, she was, 100%. But I guess now she has matured and realized how important this friend group is to her. Also, she's probably just nostalgic for simpler times when there were no partners, no babies, just them having fun. And even though this trip didn't go exactly as she had planned, they still created some fond memories together, and I'm sure this picture will always remind them of when they went to Atlantic City. CoverGirl is the episode that explores the concept of judgment. We see it through Charlotte, who's afraid of being judged by strangers for reading self-help books. Stanford starts to date Marcus and worries he will be judged for this relationship. I actually couldn't understand what was wrong with Marcus being a dancer. Was it because he wasn't already a principal or something? Very weird. Then Miranda joins Weight Watchers and meets a guy who uses eating as a coping reaction to criticism, but of course we see it mainly through Carrie walking on Samantha and her Worldwide Express guy, Joe, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now, this is one of those episodes that is very difficult to fully discuss here on YouTube due to its strict language policy, hence I will only give you my general thoughts on it. I am actually very surprised that it took Carrie and Samantha this many years to have an argument over Samantha's promiscuity. Here's the thing. Carrie is a self-proclaimed sexual anthropologist. She writes a sex/relationship column, but the only time we saw her explore her sexuality for her writing was in the pilot episode, when she was researching having sex like a man, whatever that means. And instead, she lives vicariously through Samantha's experiences. Samantha has always been supportive and non-judgmental of Carrie's life decisions, but Carrie has been judging her this entire time. There are many brunch scenes in this entire show when Samantha openly shares her sexual experiences and Carrie is like, maybe we could not talk about this during lunch.
I don't think a guy has ever gotten me that wet. Has salt? Milk?
So this argument has been boiling for years. But what slightly annoys me about this episode is that it feels like a pretty much copy-paste version of that season 2 episode where Charlotte had a problem with Samantha's sexuality. I'm talking about this episode where Samantha is pissed at Charlotte for being a prude. She meets this woman who's like a Samantha 2.0, they get along, until this woman does something that it's too progressive even for Samantha, and she's like, oh, I guess Charlotte was a bit right. Because that's how it feels when Samantha walks on Stanford and Marcus. This scene downplays Carrie and Samantha's argument, in my opinion. Because the previous episode was so dramatically and emotionally charged, but ultimately quite plotless, so many things are happening in this one. Miranda sleeps with Bart Bus, again. Samantha gets a chemical peel. Bunny MacDougal returns with her bunny-shaped keychain. Isaac Mizrahi has a cameo. Enid wears the Prada Spring-Summer 1999 mirror skirt, and it's Carrie's book release party. She meets Jack Berger at her publicist's office. They have this cute non-date date, until he casually reveals he actually has a girlfriend. Now then, I've been waiting to share my theory about Berger's character with you. Are you ready? I believe that it's not a coincidence that Lauren, Jack's ex-girlfriend with whom he is still in this episode, is a decorator. Have you ever seen a film or read a book where a young and failing writer is in a relationship with a decorator? Yes, I think this is a subtle nod to Paul Varjak and Emily, his decorator from The Breakfast at Tiffany's. And that explains why Jack Berger owns a motorcycle, a house in the Hamptons, and lives in this beautiful apartment with modern appliances and plenty of natural light. He's only published one book that doesn't sell and has no additional sources of income like a column in GQ or something, but he can afford all of this because his decorator girlfriend is supporting him financially, of which he is ashamed, and it makes him feel emasculated. Berger is the kind of guy who believes he's supposed to be a breadwinner and he can't wait to end this relationship. And so when he meets Carrie, he doesn't tell her upfront he's single, as he technically isn't, but he's too insecure to love and respect a woman who makes more money than him. He is with his decorator for her money, but he actually resents her for it. And so they break up. Then he starts to date Carrie, thinking she's an equally starving artist like him, but then her book starts to sell and the story kind of repeats itself. Tell me I'm wrong. Oh my god, this is the Nina Katz episode. I love it so much. Okay, so Nina Katz is this woman who used to date Aidan right after Carrie did. She randomly runs into Carrie and makes this iconic but ultimately very judgmental facial expression, implying that Carrie's breakup with Aidan was especially hard on him. This leaves Carrie feeling guilty and self-conscious about the impact of her past relationship and the consequences of her actions, which I actually think it's good for her. We rarely see Carrie reminiscing about her life decisions and wondering what went wrong, so I see some growth in her. But then she kind of overdoes it to the point that Stanford has to tell her, enough, you're so self-obsessed, I can't handle it anymore, let's talk about my relationship for once. Okay, but let's circle back to Nina Katz and discuss the timeline for a second. Carrie and Aidan broke up a few episodes before the 4th season finale. At the beginning of the 6th season, he already has a wife and a baby. Pregnancy takes 9 months, as we know, making me think Aidan met Nina literally a couple of weeks after his breakup with Carrie, when he was still not over her and Nina helped him move on. She listened to him whine about how his previous relationship was emotionally draining, blaming everything on Carrie, of course. While omitting his controlling behavior, he told her that Carrie made him, quote, lose his ability to open up and trust women, end quote. And when Nina made him regain this trust, he moved on and married someone else. Nina Katz is a textbook transitional girlfriend and she knows it and she's pissed. Hence the face. That's my read on this situation. Now tell me yours. Another interesting plotline in this episode is the resolution of the rising tension between Miranda's struggles as a new mother and Samantha's insensitivity. We catch up with Miranda being overwhelmed with motherhood as Brady keeps crying for no apparent reason. She can't sleep, has no time for herself, and her neighbors are annoyed by the constant baby crying. And on top of that, none of her friends seem to care. Only Charlotte offers to help, but that's only because she needs Miranda's legal help with her divorce. Nice ladies, really nice. Carrie bribes Samantha with a brownie so that she can get a little more involved in Miranda's new life. She visits Miranda and offers to babysit while she takes her hair appointment. And while Miranda's away, baby Brady starts crying again and Samantha finally understands Miranda's struggles and gains a newfound respect for mothers. Love it. Oh, and we finally meet Harry Goldenblatt and say goodbye to Benny MacDougal. What a great episode. The Big Journey might be the funniest episode of the season. Drunk Samantha, who's having an existential crisis in a train cabin, is comedy gold. Like, the silicone chicken cutlets are just the cherry on top. Carrie is horny for Mr. Big, which is a bit odd at first, right? We haven't heard about Big this entire season and all of a sudden it turns out that Carrie and Big are still in touch. She has to go to San Francisco on a book tour and surprise, surprise, that's precisely where he lives. It feels like the stars have aligned a bit too well for them. However, once we get to the part when they meet and he reads about himself in Carrie's book and realizes how horribly he has treated her and how much pain and suffering he has caused her, we, the audience, realize that the show's writers flipped Carrie and Big's roles in this episode. Finally, Mr. Big is the one who wants to talk and analyze emotions and whatever is going on between them, and now she's the one who wants to just keep things casual. And it's so good and so funny. I don't know who's funnier. Carrie trying to, seductively open a chewing gum stick, or Big obsessing over her book and reading it over and over and over again.
It was like the city itself. Cold, infuriating, and exhausting.
Basically, this episode is all about subversing roles and expectations. We see that in Samantha and Carrie's train trip when they imagine it's going to be this glamorous, Orient Express kind of experience, and it turns out to be a train ride. Carrie thinks her writing has gained popularity, and so many people came to her meet and greet, only to realize she's just opening this event for a dog. And of course we see that with Charlotte being attracted to Harry, who's so different from Trey and all those preppy guys she's been always dating. But I have a question to you. What do we think about the scene in that over-the-top bachelor's apartment? Sexy or cringy? I can't make up my mind. Now, despite my deep love and respect for Harry Goldenblood, I find it very weird how rarely we discuss the fact that Charlotte not only married her divorce lawyer, but also lived with him in the apartment that used to be owned by her ex-husband's family. How twisted is that? So many fun things are happening in this episode. We are introduced to Nathan Lane, aka Mr. Broadway, who has to go tinkle, and Bitsy von Muffling. Carrie explains what Zazazoo means. Samantha wears this insane Chanel checkered scarf. Jack Berger gets the ick with Carrie, and Charlotte tells Harry she's in love with him. I love their scenes together, like when they're eating pizza in bed and Charlotte is so bitchy to him. She says something like, "Your name is Harry because that's who you are, you have a hairy bag, and because of it I'm not going to the Hamptons with you." And he doesn't get offended or snappy. I love how he doesn't react to her neuroses. Nothing she tells him can change the way he feels about her. But did you know that there is a deleted scene in which Charlotte and Harry bump into Trey MacDougal in the Hamptons?
This is quite a surprise.
Hi. Yes, it is.
How you doing? Harry Goldenblatt. I handled your divorce.
Now, about the wedding, I'm not going to get into the sexuality of the bride and the groom because it's 2024. I think we have moved on from this. Besides, Marcus perfectly explains everything we have to know about this couple. What I love about this episode the most is that it opens so many doors for the next season. Charlotte and Harry are in love, but he can only marry a Jewish woman. Carrie and Berger decide to give each other a try. Miranda sleeps with Steve and falls for him again. And Samantha, I guess, well, she's still not over Richard, as we saw her being jealous of cocoa butter ladies. But at least we see her dancing with Miranda and Brady, which means she finally accepts Miranda as a mother. Love it. So yeah, that was my review of the 5th season of Sex and the City. If you're not tired of me rambling about the show yet, I have a whole playlist of videos about the previous seasons and another one about the reboot. Please like this video and maybe follow me on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you'll have a great day. Bye!